You know, I'm never entirely sure what I'm truly able to bring, but then I hear what these incredibly brave women tell me, and somehow that gives everything its meaning. Behind the heavily guarded walls of the palace, within rooms few ever see and even fewer truly understand, an unexpected confrontation has sent shockwaves through the royal circle. What is unfolding has been described as one of the most emotionally charged and potentially destabilizing internal crises the British royal family has faced in modern times. At the center of it all stands Princess Anne, admired for her discipline, respected for her unwavering commitment to duty, and known for her fierce loyalty to royal protocol. According to reports, Anne delivered a message so firm and so startling that it left even seasoned royal insiders stunned. Her position was clear. She would have no part in allowing Queen Camilla to shape Prince William's coronation. The emotional cost of such a divide cannot be underestimated. Every damaging headline, every whispered allegation, every sign of internal fracture chips away at public faith. Everyone understands that the monarchy is already carrying a heavy burden, but this feels different. This feels urgent. The declaration, calm yet uncompromising, ignited whispers of rivalry, quiet resistance, and internal rebellion behind closed doors. Alliances appear to be shifting, tensions are rising, and suddenly the future of the monarchy no longer feels secure. It feels fragile, uncertain, and exposed. The question now is impossible to ignore: what truly sparked this dramatic standoff? For a family built on centuries of ceremony, polished appearances, careful symbolism, and unshakable tradition, this was the one kind of moment no one ever truly prepared for. The monarchy has survived wars, scandals, betrayals, abdications, and waves of public outrage. It has always prided itself on order, on hierarchy, and on knowing precisely where every member stands when power begins to move from one generation to the next. But as the future of the throne began to center more clearly around Prince William, something unexpected started unfolding behind palace doors. What should have been a seamless transition, a united institution rallying behind the next king, slowly became strained, not loudly, not theatrically, just strained, the kind of tension that does not shout but settles into silence, into measured pauses, into glances exchanged across long dining tables, into meetings that become shorter, into names quietly left off guest lists, into invitations that never arrive. Then came the move that stunned even the most experienced royal watchers. Princess Anne, the woman known for iron discipline, emotional restraint, and lifelong loyalty to duty, did something few thought possible. She did not hold a press conference. She did not confront anyone publicly. She did not raise her voice. Instead, she acted with calm precision, and the effect was immediate. Queen Consort Camilla was no longer part of the early coronation planning. At first, the idea seemed almost impossible to believe. Surely people thought it had to be a scheduling issue, an internal oversight, or a bureaucratic mistake. But as the weeks passed, a pattern began to emerge, and that pattern could no longer be ignored. High-level strategy meetings were taking place. Confidential documents were being circulated. Crucial decisions about symbolism, ceremony, structure, and the message Prince William's future coronation would send to the nation were being made. And Camilla's name appeared nowhere, not once. Those closest to the process noticed how smoothly it all seemed to happen. There was no chaos, no open rebellion, and no visible rupture. William's most trusted advisors moved quickly, almost instinctively, as though this direction had already been quietly agreed upon long before anyone outside the inner circle could detect it. Documents were shared only within a narrow and tightly controlled group. Conversations remained contained. Planning continued with discipline and momentum, but without her. What made it even more shocking was the way Camilla reportedly discovered it. There was no formal conversation, no warning, no respectful explanation, and no moment of courtesy. Instead, questions began rising from within her own staff. Why had her office not received a particular memo? Why had an important planning outline bypassed them entirely? At first, her team assumed it was a clerical error, some administrative slip that would soon be corrected. But when follow-up calls went unanswered and quiet confirmation came from elsewhere, the truth became unavoidable. This had not been an accident, it had been intentional. Inside Clarence's house, the emotional impact reportedly landed hard. Camilla had spent years rebuilding her public image, slowly securing her place beside the king, and gradually winning a level of acceptance from both the institution and the public. She believed she had finally cemented her role, and now, without warning, she was being edged out of the single most important transition in the monarchy's future. Yet true to royal custom, there was no public reaction, no visible complaint, no official correction, no wounded statement to the press, only silence. And inside palace walls, silence is rarely empty. Silence is often the loudest message of all. Within royal life, exclusion is rarely accidental. More often, it is strategic. Some insiders insist Anne acted purely to protect Prince William. In their view, shielding the future king from lingering tensions, old controversies, and blurred loyalties was not only sensible but necessary. By keeping the focus tight, narrow, and controlled, they argue, William would be protected from distraction during one of the most defining transitions of his life. To them, unity, even if carefully constructed, mattered more than hurt feelings. But others believe something deeper was at work, not a clash of personalities, but a struggle over power, authorship, legacy, and influence. A struggle over who gets to shape the next chapter of the monarchy and who gets left behind when history moves forward. Whatever the true motive may have been, one fact cannot be ignored: the atmosphere had changed. Without any speech and without any dramatic confrontation, a line had been drawn. Camilla, once central, now stood outside the room where the future was being decided. And in royal history, when such lines are drawn, they are rarely erased without consequence. So what could have led Princess Anne to take such a calculated stand? Was it pure loyalty to William? Or was it the result of years of quiet strain finally reaching a breaking point? And just how deep does this divide truly go? For decades, Princess Anne has carried out royal duty with a seriousness that borders on military precision. Through births, weddings, crises, ceremonies, deaths, transitions, and turmoil, she has remained exactly what the institution depends on most: steady. No drama, no theatrics, and no hunger for applause. Anne has always seemed to believe that the crown is not a stage, it is a responsibility. And when someone like Anne shifts her stance even slightly, the tremor is felt far beyond palace walls. Yet beneath her composed expression, a quiet strain appears to have been building for years, and at the center of that strain stands Camilla. From the moment King Charles and Camilla re-emerged in public life as a united couple, Anne's posture seemed unmistakable, polite, proper, and distant. She fulfilled every formal obligation required of her, but nothing more. There were no warm public exchanges, no visible closeness, and no sense of personal chemistry beyond what rank and duty demanded. While other senior royals gradually adjusted to Camilla's presence, Anne maintained a clear boundary. It was subtle but unmistakable. That restraint may never have been about rivalry. It may have been about order. Anne has always seemed to believe that a place within the monarchy is not granted by sentiment or repaired by public relations. It is earned slowly through sacrifice, discipline, and years of service. In her view, the institution survives only when everyone understands their place and respects its limits. Camilla's journey from one of the monarchy's most controversial figures to queen consort may have been softened by time and carefully rebuilt through public acceptance, but Anne never seemed fully convinced that image repair alone was enough to rewrite hierarchy. One insider reportedly described a quiet evening at Balmoral where Anne, reflecting after an engagement, remarked to a trusted aide that some people carry duty as a burden, while others wear it as an accessory. She never explained what she meant. She didn't need to. When Charles ascended the throne, the balance appeared to shift. Camilla's voice seemed more confident in internal discussions. She looked more comfortable in ceremonial planning. Her presence during public events appeared stronger, more assured, and more visible. To some, it seemed natural, a queen consort growing fully into her role. To Anne, it may have looked like something else: expansion. Behind closed doors, friction reportedly began to surface in subtle but telling ways. At more than one high-profile state event, palace staff are said to have noticed quiet moments of correction. During one diplomatic reception, witnesses claimed Camilla stepped forward to guide a conversation with a visiting dignitary, only for Anne to intervene smoothly, redirect the exchange, and reclaim the ceremonial center. No voices were raised. There was no scene. Only a firm adjustment, controlled, intentional, and unmistakable. In Anne's mind, this may not have been personal. It may have been protective. As Camilla's influence seemed to widen, Anne's concerns reportedly deepened. She is said to have begun holding private conversations with Prince William. Not about personalities, but about structure, clarity, and order. She reportedly warned that if authority becomes unclear, stability weakens. And William, already carrying the burden of representing a modern monarchy under relentless public scrutiny, could not afford uncertainty inside his own ranks. Sources suggest these conversations marked a turning point. Camilla's involvement in future planning, especially in sensitive ceremonial discussions, appeared to narrow. Not publicly, not dramatically, but noticeably. It was not retaliation, it was containment, and Anne, as always, chose silence over spectacle. But what Anne may have anticipated, Prince William may have confronted directly. According to those said to be close to the Prince of Wales, a private meeting took place between William and Camilla, one that would shift the atmosphere entirely. The conversation was reportedly held behind closed doors, away from public view, away from cameras, and away from the carefully crafted smiles that royal life demands. William, disciplined as ever, had reportedly reached a point where clarity was no longer optional. As plans for his future coronation began taking shape, he started to feel increasingly unsettled. Camilla's role, once supportive and clearly defined, now seemed to be stretching into territory he believed belonged to the future king alone. This was no longer about old family wounds or private discomfort. It was about legacy. When William requested that meeting, he did not do so as a stepson. He did it as the man who will one day wear the crown. Those close to palace affairs say he spoke calmly and carefully, choosing every word with precision. He reportedly asked for space to shape his reign, define its image, determine its symbolism, and decide what kind of monarchy he wished to build. He acknowledged Camilla's position. He did not challenge her title. He did not deny her place beside the king. But he is said to have made one thing unmistakably clear: decisions tied to his coronation and the future shape of his reign would rest with him and his advisors. There were no raised voices, no accusations, just one firm message: step back. Camilla reportedly responded with a lightness that William did not expect. Almost playfully, she is said to have brushed aside the concern, treating the matter as little more than ceremonial pageantry, as though it were all merely tradition, performance, and symbolism. But to William, it was everything. These decisions were not decorative, they were foundational. They would define how the country first saw his reign. In that moment, the dismissal reportedly struck a nerve. Years of restraint gave way to something colder, firmer, and more final. The message was clear: this is not your crown to shape. The words, by all accounts, were measured, but they landed with force. Then came silence, no argument, no dramatic exit, no emotional breakdown. William simply nodded, turned, and walked away. But what followed was far more powerful than an argument ever could have been. Within days, William quietly aligned himself with Princess Anne, the one royal whose loyalty to duty, discipline, and institutional order has never been in doubt. Together, according to reports, they began adjusting the coronation planning. Invitations shifted, agendas changed, meetings were scheduled without certain names. Access was quietly narrowed. There was no public confrontation and no official announcement, just a precise recalibration of influence. Because in royal life, power is rarely expressed through noise, it is expressed through access. Camilla did not discover the shift through a conversation, she discovered it through absence. A meeting she expected to attend had already taken place without her. A briefing moved forward without her input. An outline was finalized without her office being consulted. At first, her team assumed an oversight, then came unanswered calls, then confirmed schedules, then the truth: she had not been forgotten, she had been removed. Reports suggest Camilla later approached King Charles privately, seeking clarity, perhaps reassurance, perhaps support. After all the years she had spent rebuilding her place, managing scrutiny, enduring public doubt, and working her way toward acceptance, the possibility that her influence was now slipping must have felt devastating. But Charles, cautious and emotionally divided, is said to have offered little resistance. His silence may have said what words could not. For Camilla, the realization cut deeply. The monarchy she had worked so hard to belong to was evolving, and it was evolving without her at its center. Still, she did not simply disappear. Instead, her public visibility reportedly increased. More engagements, more appearances, more effort, more presence. A strategic reminder, perhaps, that she still remained part of the royal picture. Yet despite those efforts, something undeniable was happening: the future of the monarch. Chai was being redefined, and her influence was no longer guaranteed. And while this silent power struggle unfolded behind closed doors, another figure was stepping forward with remarkable steadiness: Catherine, Princess of Wales. Unlike others, Catherine did not push for influence. She did not demand space. She did not fight to be heard. She did not insist on authority. She simply occupied it naturally, elegantly, and effortlessly. And in doing so, she may have changed everything. Her rise did not feel forced. It was not sudden. It was not loud. It was the result of patience, composure, and years of carefully earned trust. Senior palace aides later suggested that Catherine's involvement in Prince William's early coronation preparations was far more than symbolic. From the earliest meetings, she was helping shape not only schedules and guest lists, but tone, atmosphere, symbolism, and the emotional meaning of the ceremony itself. Every suggestion she made appeared to carry the same intention: respect tradition, but make it matter now. Catherine reportedly did not want the coronation to feel like a relic. She wanted it to feel alive, relevant, and connected to the public, especially to younger generations watching closely and asking whether the monarchy still has meaning in the modern world. It was said to be her idea to involve young people in the procession, giving them an active role in what might otherwise have remained a rigid centuries-old ritual. She also reportedly proposed ways to honor Queen Elizabeth II that looked backward with reverence while still pointing gently toward the future, a balance of memory and momentum, of legacy and renewal. But what set Catherine apart was not only what she suggested. It was the way she carried herself, calm, measured, and unshakable. She did not impose her presence, she earned it. And where Camilla's growing assertiveness had reportedly drawn attention and resistance, Catherine moved without friction. Her influence did not need to be announced, it was simply felt. Inside the palace, that feeling became harder and harder to ignore. Her clarity, restraint, and natural alignment with William's vision made her more than a supportive partner. She was becoming central to the future itself. One insider summed it up this way: where William brought strength, Catherine brought balance. Together, they were not simply preparing for a ceremony, they were defining the next chapter of the monarchy. And yet, even as William and Catherine's vision appeared to solidify, the palace remained what it has always been: a delicate ecosystem of loyalties, tensions, obligations, and private negotiations. Then came a hidden meeting at Windsor, and with it, the risk that everything carefully orchestrated might begin to unravel. According to insiders, King Charles summoned Princess Anne for a private conversation, one described as tense, restrained, and deeply personal. Charles, under increasing pressure from Camilla, reportedly tried to persuade Anne to reverse course, to undo the quiet, decisive move that had kept Camilla out of William's coronation planning. For Camilla, the exclusion was humiliating. For Charles, it may have felt like unity itself was beginning to crack. Anne, however, did not come to protect feelings, she came to protect the crown. Charles is said to have spoken not as king but as husband. He reportedly appealed for understanding, loyalty, compassion, and acknowledgement of everything Camilla had endured and of the place she believed she had finally earned. He reportedly reminded Anne with visible emotion that Camilla was his wife. Anne, true to form, never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her reply was calm, simple, and final, and in that moment the emotional reality became impossible to avoid. As the palace quietly recalibrated itself, one truth began to emerge more clearly than ever before. Camilla's role was no longer secure. It might be diminished, it might be rewritten, it might even fade into ceremonial shadow. King Charles, by all accounts, sat in silence after that confrontation, carrying the growing weight of a truth no sovereign ever wishes to face. Even a king does not hold absolute power within a monarchy built on tradition, family influence, and inherited loyalty. Time perhaps had sharpened his awareness of just how fragile royal authority really is. A crown can command ceremony, it can command structure, it can command deference. But it cannot always command hearts, and it cannot always overrule conviction. Anne was one of those convictions. The confrontation had not ended in compromise, it had ended in quiet resolve. She had stood not as sister, not as ally, but as guardian, a sentinel protecting the institution with the same fierce discipline that has defined her entire life. Camilla, once Charles's anchor through years of public hostility and private struggle, now stood on the very fault line dividing the family. Charles may have hoped for her money, but Anne had drawn a line that could not easily be crossed. The meeting ended without warmth, no gestures to soften the blow, no emotional language to repair the damage, just a nod, a step back, and then Anne was gone. With her departure, the illusion of complete royal cohesion seemed to vanish. What followed was not a public scandal, at least not in the usual sense. There were no explosive press conferences, no dramatic statements, and no visible collapse. Instead, there was something far more dangerous to a royal institution: a quiet, calculated upheaval. Every move that followed carried significance. Anne's silent defiance, combined with William's measured support, sent ripples through every corridor of the palace. Even the king, in all his rank and solitude, had to confront a harsh truth: authority in the monarchy is not owned, it is borrowed through tradition, protected by loyalty, reinforced only by those willing to defend principle over convenience. Palace aides reportedly scrambled behind the scenes. Drafts of official statements were carefully written and rewritten, each line polished to preserve the image of calm. When the public message finally emerged, it was neutral, composed, and almost sterile in tone. It emphasized cooperation among senior royals in support of the Prince of Wales. But one absence stood out more loudly than all the words included: Camilla's name. And in royal language, silence can be far more revealing than speech. To analysts and observers, that omission confirmed what insiders had already begun to suspect. Camilla had been deliberately sidelined, not merely excluded, made invisible. Inside the palace, the calm presented to the public was only skin-deep. Internal instructions reportedly moved rapidly through staff channels: avoid speculation, stick to the agreed message, and above all, do not mention Camilla in any coronation-related discussion. This was not random, it was a containment strategy, a carefully controlled effort to preserve the appearance of unity while quietly reshaping the balance of influence inside the monarchy. But appearances never hold forever. By now, the cracks were becoming visible. Those closest to Camilla reportedly felt blindsided, hurt, and furious. Some believed she should push back, others urged patience and restraint. But for Camilla, the damage may already have been done. To be made invisible inside a monarchy, where image, symbolism, and perception are forms of power, is more than humiliating. It is a subtle form of exile. Every omitted mention, every carefully avoided reference, every silence, every shift in protocol, every missing seat at the table signaled the same thing: the balance of influence was changing. and the palace, long believed to move in perfect harmony, was revealing the fractures hidden beneath its polished surface. Then came one of the most startling developments of all. According to reports, the truth found its way into the open through something never meant to be seen outside private hands, a letter. Written by Princess Anne and intended solely for her brother, King Charles, the letter reportedly exposed concerns far deeper than personal tension. It revealed a struggle over legacy, discipline, hierarchy, and the survival of the monarchy itself. The letter is said to have surfaced weeks before Camilla was gradually edged out of coronation planning, and in Anne's unmistakably formal style, the words carried unusual emotional force. Beneath the restraint lay urgency, beneath the formality lay warning. Anne reportedly reflected on the burden of tradition, not merely the visible ritual, but the invisible weight carried by those who inherit the crown and those tasked with defending its meaning. She warned that without disciplined leadership and carefully maintained boundaries, the monarchy risked becoming what she allegedly described as a pageant of contradiction, a spectacle in which appearances outweigh purpose and private relationships begin to erode public duty. Trust, she is said to have cautioned, is fragile, and once the public senses that family dynamics are overtaking national responsibility, that trust can begin to dissolve. Her focus, according to those familiar with the letter, was Prince William. She reportedly described him as the final pillar capable of uniting tradition with modern vision, the figure whose judgment could determine whether the crown remains credible in a changing world. Her tone was said to be firm, unflinching, and unapologetic. Sometimes, she argued, the hardest decisions are the ones required for the institution to survive. Anne allegedly urged Charles to step back, not simply as a brother listening to a sister, but as the custodian of a centuries-old institution that demanded clarity, discipline, and foresight above all else. Letting go, she implied, would not be painless, but it might be necessary. And that brings us to the final unavoidable force, shaping everything behind Those palace walls, public opinion. The British monarchy has always depended on public approval for its survival. But in the modern age, public opinion does more than influence headlines. It quietly redistributes power. Behind closed palace doors, decisions about visibility, influence, prominence, and even ceremonial roles are no longer determined by tradition alone. Increasingly, they are guided by how the public feels about each royal figure. Princess Anne built her reputation not through charm campaigns or media strategy, but through relentless work, duty, and consistency. During periods of royal scandal, embarrassment, and public distrust, she has often acted as a stabilizing force, the one figure whose seriousness reassures people that the institution still remembers what service means. That kind of consistency matters because continuity is the monarchy's lifeline. Today, public perception is measurable in polling numbers, in global commentary, in public reactions, and in the ever-expanding world of digital conversation. And for years now, those numbers have increasingly favored Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Again and again, surveys have shown them ranking among the most trusted and admired members of the royal family. Their image combines tradition with relatability. They appear modern without rejecting history. They offer formality without emotional distance. That balance matters, especially now when the monarchy faces growing questions about relevance. And when public approval gathers around certain figures, internal influence tends to follow. Coronation planning, ceremonial prominence, access to advisors, and symbolic roles all become tied, at least in part, to public confidence. If the institution believes that the future king and his wife hold the strongest public support, then reinforcing their visibility becomes more than preference. It becomes strategy. In that context, limiting the influence of others is not always about personal conflict. Sometimes it is about institutional self-preservation. Anne's reported support for William appears to fit that logic. If she believes the monarchy's future rests heavily on William and Catherine's ability to command public trust, then protecting their space to define the next era becomes essential. From her point of view, any dynamic that blurs that focus could weaken the institution itself, because the crown survives not by bloodline alone but by belief, and once belief is lost, tradition cannot save it. This is how power evolves in royal life. Official titles may remain unchanged, formal hierarchy may appear untouched, but real influence flows toward those who command trust. During periods of uncertainty, the monarchy has always adapted by elevating its most respected figures. Anne herself became more admired through decades of quiet service, especially when others around her became consumed by scandal or controversy. That respect becomes something more than reputation. It becomes moral authority. And coronation roles carry immense symbolic weight. They do not simply reflect who is present. They signal who matters, who represents continuity, and who represents the future. If William and Catherine are viewed as the bridge to a more stable next chapter, then shaping the monarchy around them becomes more than optics. it becomes survival strategy. Every seat at the planning table, every invitation, every carefully selected appearance, and every moment of public visibility sends a message, and Anne appears to understand that better than almost anyone. By protecting the figures who now carry the strongest public trust, she may believe she is protecting the monarchy itself, and in a system where symbolism can determine survival, that calculation may ultimately decide who truly shapes the crown's future. So what do you think about Princess Anne's reported actions toward Camilla? Was this a necessary move to protect Prince William and the future of the monarchy, or was it a quiet but ruthless display of royal power behind closed doors? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.